Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. Hey, Front Seat Lifers! It is Jessica, and I am coming to you today with episode number 8. We are moving along here. Today is actually a really big day. We are moving from self to others. So as a former psychotherapist and as a business owner and somebody who's been kind of going through this life stuff and struggle with all of you, I know very, very clearly that we do not live in a silo. We do not live alone. We live with others. And one of the best models that I ever learned in graduate school was this model of attunement and differentiation. And that's actually what today's episode is going to be all about. Today, I'm going to be explaining this model and tool so that you can see the visual. How many of you are visual? I am such a visual person, and it's so incredibly important for me to have visuals. You've probably noticed that in past episodes, or the upcoming episode next week is codependency, and I talk about a tennis court. This is the same in terms of having a visual for self and others. So the visual is, I want everybody to imagine an infinity symbol. And this is not a line for a reason, because you're not one or the other, kind of going back and forth. You're actually floating, if you will, to one side or the other and landing in the middle. I am no statistician, but I think it's pretty obvious to know that if you're going back and forth, floating on an infinity symbol, more often than not, you're going to land in the middle. And the visual and the analogy is you really will be somewhere in the middle, most often between differentiation and attunement. Now, let me describe what those mean. Let's start with differentiation. For the last couple of months, the last 8 episodes, and we will continue to talk about this on the Front Seat Life podcast as we go along, but differentiation is really only one side of the equation of who are you. So that's what we've been kind of digging into is who are you in this world? Love me for who I am. Be unapologetically who you are. All the things I love to talk about to help you figure out who the hell you are in this world. Not relying on other people to define that. Next week's episode is a real butt kicker because I talk about codependency, and we don't just live again on one side of on the net or the infinity symbol, because the differentiation means yourself. This is actually a somewhat of a selfish place to live. And I think selfish gets a really bad rap. And to be honest, I don't think it should. I think we have to be selfish sometimes. We have to figure out who we are. We have to take time for ourselves. We have to set boundaries. We have to stay on our side of the net. We have to build our opinions. We have to do what we want to do sometimes. And in full transparency, this is where I've really spent probably the last 6 or 7 years. As most of you know, I was in a very difficult and challenging marriage and relationship for about 20 years. It's not about that, but an addiction and affairs and like just all kinds of stuff. It was wonderful at times, but more than not, it was very challenging and difficult. And I share very openly that I lost myself in that relationship. I became the form of codependency where I allowed myself to become muted. I didn't have an opinion. I lost myself. I absolutely lost myself in that relationship. And so really since I've left that marriage 5.5 years ago, and even towards the end of that relationship when I went back to graduate school, became this very selfish era of my life. It basically was like, I don't really care about other people. That's not true. That was such a dick thing to say. That's totally not true. Of course, I cared about people. I mean, in a relationship, I was not in very many relationships, loving, like intimate relationships, obviously friends and sisters and parents and things like that relationships, but I wasn't in a love relationship. Let's get clear about that. I've been on and off in those, but the majority of them were unsuccessful for a lot of different reasons. When I get into knowing your worth, we'll talk about more of that. But part of it was I didn't want to compromise. I didn't want to attune. I wanted to be selfish. I wanted to do what Jessica wanted to do. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel. I wanted to build my business. I wanted to sleep by myself. I wanted to buy a house by myself. I wanted to decorate my house the way that I wanted. I wanted to go on vacation and do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And therefore, I spent a lot of time, and I don't regret it at all, because it's helped me build my business. It's helped me figure out who I am, and it's helped me figure out what I actually want in my next relationship. But that side of the infinity symbol is incredibly important. It was building things like I statements, owning my own shit, knowing what my triggers were, spending a lot of time by myself, figuring out my worth. Go back to episode number 7, which was just last week. And in that, I talk about staying on your side of the net, building up who you are in this world, understanding your worth, understanding what you want, what your expectations are, how you want to live your life, and not letting somebody else decide that for you, but really getting clear on turning the mirror on myself. There's no one else to blame. You know what's fascinating about being single and kind of staying on the side of differentiation is there's no one else to blame. I can't blame my unhappiness on a partner. I can't blame my debt or my success for that matter. It's all on me. All of it was on me. And a lot of people, I think, actually need to go through a period of this. I think every person who ends a relationship, goes through a divorce, has a period of time, needs this time to reevaluate who they are. And again, I spent at least the last 5.5 years. I've had relationships in those 5.5 years, but really it's been about differentiation and figuring out who I am. So that's one side. And that is what we've been literally talking about for the last couple of months. And I will continue to talk about it this summer. We're going to talk a ton about that. But where I really want to go, at least for the next 5 episodes and probably likely for the next 2 months. So stay tuned. This is going to be episode now 8. And through at least, obviously I haven't totally figured this out. At least for the next 6, 7, 8 episodes, I'm really going to be focusing on the be unapologetically who you are piece around love. So my whole tagline, all the work that I do is obviously front seat life, and then be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. So what we've been talking about thus far is life. And now we're going to dive into the love piece, which is the other side of the infinity symbol. This summer, I'm going to do a whole bunch of episodes on mindset and living out your dreams and all the tools that have helped me get my shit together and get much more clear in my life. And then the last quarter of the year is going to be all about business, taking all of these things that I'm going to be teaching you about being unapologetically who you are. Don't do stuff that you suck at, system, structure, singular focus. And I'm going to teach you how to implement those into your business so that you can actually start being successful and not treating your business like a hobby. Ugh, that makes me crazy. So back to this. On the other side of the infinity symbol from differentiation is attunement. And attunement means others. I mean, it doesn't mean others, but you know what I mean. The other side is attunement, how we attune to others. And again, I want to be very clear that this is an infinity symbol, not a line, because what oftentimes people do is they think of it as a line. Well, to be a good person, I think is what people tell themselves, I should always be caring about other people or giving to other people or catering to other people. But they forget that on an infinity symbol, once you tip over that side of attunement, you've got to fall back over onto the other side into differentiation. If it was just a line, you could stay over there forever. And that's how people lose themselves. They lose themselves in their children's lives. They lose themselves in their relationship. They lose themselves in their work. And they forget to dip back over onto the other side of differentiation. Again, this piece of who the hell are you? Who are you as a person? And so the other side is incredibly important as well. This is the side where in marriages, as a parent, as a friend, as a coworker, we have to learn the other side. And this is all about 2 healthy people. And I need to be really clear about this. And this is where this gets hard. I get this question a lot when I'm doing keynotes or trainings or wherever I am really, is people often ask, but my spouse, whether that be a man or woman, my spouse isn't in a place where they are healthy. They're either in an addiction or they have a personality disorder. This requires codependency, healthy detachment, being attuned to others, being differentiated, being the same level of differentiation takes two healthy people. That means people doing their work. That means not blaming others. That means not being in victimhood. That means not being in a place of blaming other people and or unhealthiness. So personality disorder, addiction, obviously drinking too much, any of those kinds of things are not being healthy, not taking care of yourself so that you can be in a healthy relationship. So unfortunately, some of the things that I'm going to be talking about for some of you listeners are going to be more challenging. Let me be clear. It's not impossible for you to continue to take care of yourself, but you may land on the other side. So this is a whole nother topic and one that I can't really get into, but stay tuned for that. I will have a conversation about addiction and, I was, in a relationship like that. So I'm well versed on kind of taking care of yourself on that side of the net. But the attunement piece is with another healthy person. And that doesn't mean physically fit. It means healthy mentally, spiritually, physically, somebody who is interested in also taking care of themselves emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So the attunement side is really about putting our own oxygen mask on first, understanding who we are in this world, and then stepping into relationship with another person. This is why oftentimes people continue to have unhealthy relationships or failed relationships is because they haven't done their own work first. They step into a relationship and they kind of expect that person to do the work for them. But attunement is really, I'll just, speak for myself. It's about me understanding who I am, what my triggers are, what my attachment style is, what my personality type is, understanding my family of origin, understanding my past hurts, and then being able to step into a relationship and start using compassion, interest, getting curious. This is not about trying to change someone to be who we want them to be. This is about loving them for who they are, as well as receiving love for who we are. There is this statement called HISL, being heard, seen, and loved. I don't know where I learned that, so sorry, I can't give credit to whoever made that up, but it's awesome. HISL is all about being heard, seen, and loved. Being heard, like someone really listening to you. My man and I just had our first kind of big issue. We had a pretty big misunderstanding. I read something completely wrong and we had a pretty, again, big misunderstanding. And I went into it curious instead of blaming. We sat down and had a very adult conversation and I told him the way, because of my hurts from the past, how I perceived it. And you know what he did? He heard me. He just sat and listened and really heard me. And I think we heard each other. So the first part of that is to really hear people, to not project our own stuff. He said something like, at one point, what do you want me to say? And I said, I want you to say whatever you want to say. I don't want you to say what I think you want me to say because I'm not going to learn who you are. This is a fairly new relationship. And so I want to hear from you whatever it is that you have to say. That is getting curious about who somebody is, not wanting them to be who I want them to be. It's about getting curious, because let's get real. We are never going to change anybody. If you're listening right now and you think you're going to change somebody, holy shit, you need to get over that. You are never going to do that. Yes, we can compromise. Yes, we can evolve. Yes, we can grow into each other, but we are never fundamentally going to change anybody. You need to go back to episode 1 and kind of listen to personality type, because who we are is who we are. Yes, we can evolve. Yes, we can grow. Yes, we can compromise, but fundamentally who they are is who they are, especially For those of you who are, older in age, I'm 45 years old. I'm not getting into a relationship with somebody at this point and expecting them to not have past traumas, to not have past relationships, to not have old stories that are influencing the relationship that we're going to be in now. That is crazy. That is crazy to think that someone's coming in as a fresh slate. Nobody except babies come into this world with a fresh slate. Everybody comes with stuff. So that's part of the attunement. Hello, Front Seat Lifers. I have a crazy, exciting announcement. I have been waiting to put this new work out into the world for probably 7 years. It's been in me that entire time. So most of you know I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I used to be a couples counselor. I loved that work. I actually really enjoyed working with high conflict couples, addiction, infidelity, as well as couples that were just doing great. It was one of my favorite things actually to work with those couples who just needed a little tune-up, if you will. And that is exactly what I am bringing you next. So my first book, Live Your Life from the Front Seat, was released 4 years ago and is the basis for kind of all understanding of self, using personality types, some therapy skills, codependency, mindset skills, learning how to put it all to good use by taking action. That is the first step in helping you be unapologetically who you are in your life. Then I released 2 years later, Don't Do Stuff You Suck At. And that really is more for entrepreneurs and digs deep into personality type and specifically the last dichotomy of J and P to help you understand why you have trouble getting things done. And it also digs deeper into what you should not be doing, hence the name. I also introduce in that book my trademark system, the 3S method, structure, system, singular, focus, to help you take decisive action, helping you be unapologetically who you are in your business. And the last announcement, it's not going to be a book quite yet, but I am launching my first ever online program around the love content. Drum roll, please. I literally couldn't be more excited to take this work, bring it to you in an online format. This is really going to be for couples who are doing well. They are in a good place. They are fairly happy, need some good communication skills. And I will be honest too, this actually doesn't take an entire couple. It really could just be one person in the relationship because that makes a huge difference as well. I'm going to teach you every single best couples tool that I've ever used. We're going to start with all of the dichotomies, really diving into them deeper about how they are about your relationship. And stay tuned for the entire month of March as I'm going to be diving in deep to all of these different dichotomies. We're going to talk about masculine and feminine energy. We're going to talk about personality type. We're going to talk about mindset and love languages and communication skills and ladder of inference and family of origin and core values and really all the tools that have literally changed relationships, changed my relationship, changed the relationships that I've had the honor of working with. So stay tuned for more. In the meantime, the wait list is open. It is going to get filled very, very, very fast. So go to frontseatlove.com, enter your name, and we will make sure that we keep you updated on all of the good stuff coming. I cannot wait to work with you. Don't forget, frontseatlove.com. So that's the being heard piece. Everybody wants to be heard. Like, think about that. Think about the last time that you were actually really heard. How good did that feel? I bet it felt amazing. I know that feeling of someone not thinking immediately about what they want to say next. Or did you hear me? Again, in this relationship, he kind of repeated back to me what he heard me say. And I remember in that moment going, my God, that feels good. That feels so, it actually is making me like choke up right now about how good that feels to be heard. To have someone that you care for hear you is a very powerful thing. So again, if we want to be hizzled, we want to be heard, loved, and seen. Heard, seen, and loved. We need to do the same for others in our lives. So let's go into seen. So once someone starts to hear us, they really hear us for who we are, then we can start to see them for who they are, because it starts with being heard, right? Again, stepping into this new relationship, it's been a while since I've been in a new relationship because I was single for about a year, and stepping into a new relationship and rediscovering this process of being in a new relationship. It's fun. It's interesting. It's like, who are you? Show me, teach me, talk to me, tell me about your past. Tell me about how you think and what excites you. It's fun, but I have to start by hearing that. Then I start to see somebody for who they are. I want you to think about that for a minute again. When was the last time you were seen for who you are? Someone gave you a beautiful compliment. They wrote you a note for who you are. If you own a business, maybe someone gave you a review that really saw you for who you are. As my primary love language is words of affirmation, I think this is probably one of my favorite things to give other people, but also to receive, because it's my primary love language, is for someone to give me a really powerful compliment about something specific that they saw about me, because I feel seen. And when people start to be heard and seen for who they really are, then the last thing is the most powerful, and this is all about attunement, is being loved, loving others and being loved. So this is why I talk about, and I own the URL, and the next book is going to be called Love Me for Who I Am. Because it's not only about ourselves asking people to love us for who we are. Don't we do that all the time, right? Love me for who I am. Yet we go through this world trying to change other people. We try to make them who we want them to be, or why aren't you doing this my way? Instead of getting curious, like, why don't you text me more? Why don't you communicate the way that I want you to communicate? Why do you need this? Instead of judging it, getting very curious, stepping into it, loving people for who they are, and again, receiving that back. So that's the hizzle analogy, being heard, that where it starts and it continuing to hear people for who they are, seeing them for who they are, and then lastly, loving them for all of those things. And it's never perfect. It's never perfect. And it likely might not even be what you thought you may have wanted. But that piece of asking people to love us for who they are and then loving them for who they are. So to hizzle them. I hear you, I see you, and I love you. And I don't know about you guys, but that's really all I want in my life. Well, that and a house in Maui. But I want to be hizzled. I want to be hizzled by every person in my life. I want my mom to hear me and see me and love me. I want my sister to hear me, see me, and love me. I want my friends. And I'll be honest, the people who don't, they're not my friends anymore. I have a lot of friends who don't have any idea what I do. They don't get it. They don't ask about it. No, I have a whole group of friends who don't ask anything about my business. They don't hear me. They don't see me, and they don't love me for that. And now they're not really my friends anymore because I don't feel loved by them. I don't feel heard by them. I don't feel seen by them. And that's okay. But those are not people that are in my life anymore because I'm not being hizzled, and vice versa. So that's kind of all I want in life, is to be this heard, seen, and loved. And I think that's what everybody wants in our life. So then the next piece, and this is, kind of a difficult place to end on, but the part of attachment and this whole idea of this infinity symbol method or model is a better word for it, of a differentiation and attunement, is asking ourselves, is who I want to be with, are they willing and capable to do these things? Are they doing their own work? Are they stepping into this relationship? Because when people show you who they are, believe them. That's an Oprah-ism that has literally changed my life. When people show you who they are, believe them. It doesn't mean that people can't get their shit together. It doesn't mean that they can't evolve. But for us to be in a healthy relationship. And let me get clear about that. There's plenty of fucked up, unhealthy relationships, but to be in a healthy relationship, it takes two people that are willing to step in and be the same level of differentiation, which means being the same level of healthiness. You'll notice, right? There's a lot of couples where both of them are really screwed up. I don't know a lot of them anymore, thank God. But those couples, they are the same level of differentiation. They're still a mess. They're not reading the books. They're not going to therapy. They're just like going through their life. But for those of you who are listening to this podcast, you are not those people, because those people actually don't want to hear the truth, right? They don't want to be told the truth. They don't want to hear this shit because they know that they're in their mess. So for everybody listening, I know that you want a healthier relationship because you're listening to this. And so this is kind of, again, a tough, hashtag truth telling. Like, this is a tough one right here. But if you are in a relationship with someone who is either in addiction, in an unhealthy situation in their life, or they are unwilling, or sometimes they're not capable. That's a really, you guys know that I'm keeping it real on this podcast. And my last relationship last year, I was single for an entire year. So that must have been 2017. My last relationship was with someone who was not capable. And it took a while to figure that out. I thought he might be able to. And the reality is he wasn't. I think there was a level of unwillingness as well. But in full transparency, he actually told me, I am not capable of this. And therefore, I don't think I'm willing to put in the effort. And it was, fuck, that hurts. And that's damn honest. I had to realize, okay, I am not willing to work harder than my partner. That's another thing that I learned in graduate school of being a former therapist and being a coach now, is that I can never work harder than my clients. I can never work harder than my partner. Like, it has to be equal. Again, back to the infinity symbol. It's not one side or the other. And yes, there are ebbs and flows in relationships. Let me get clear about that. There are people that will need to be stronger at certain times, and there's sickness, and there's health, and there's bad times, and there's, losing your job, and deaths in families, and all of that stuff. And so as a couple, of course you pick each other up, but there is a level of equal differentiation. Are they willing and capable? And I've had to ask myself that my entire life thus far. I'm 45 years old. And I've had to ask myself that in all of my relationships. Is this person willing and capable of stepping into a relationship with me at the level that I want? Are we willing? Is he willing? Or anybody, my sister, my friends, are they willing to step in to have these kinds of conversations, to have difficult conversations, to be able to truth tell, to be able to be loving, to be willing to hizzle, to be able to hear me, see me, love me, and for me to do the same. And so that is a really tough question. And I hear that a lot from my clients over the years, is it's been hard for them to be with someone who is unwilling or not capable. Yeah, so I guess I'll end there for today, because this is what we're going to talk about. This was just a kind of a queue up episode for what we're going to talk about for the next month, because next week we're jumping into the dichotomies again. So today was really about this balance of self and other. How do you maintain that balance of who I am while going into being with somebody else? And that is next week's episode, is talking about codependency, of what it's like to lose yourself in a relationship. I was going to play the codependency episode before this one, and I realized they're out of sync, and I needed to do this episode so that you could see this visual and hear this visual and get educated on this infinity symbol of differentiation and attunement before I jumped into codependency, because next week's episode is a really, really powerful one in terms of how are you showing up unhealthy? How are you letting yourself be lost in a relationship? How are you not minding your own business and jumping on the other side of the net and trying to manage and control those in your life? Because again, this is the beauty of a healthy relationship, is that understanding of who you are, being able to show up on your side of the net, have a voice, have a conversation with people, be able to hold your own, spend time by yourself, be okay in who you are, and then again, stepping into a healthy relationship with somebody else. Thank you so much for listening. And again, the next kind of 2 months are really going to be powerful episodes about relationships, specifically couple relationships. And I couldn't be more honored to bring this work to you. Again, it's been kind of percolating in me since I've been a couples therapist, but I really went down this path of the book, Live Your Life from the Front Seat, which is all about yourself. And then I went into the business stuff with Don't Do Stuff You Suck At, and dug much, much deeper into the J and P dichotomy. And now it's time to talk about the love and talk about the relationships that we're in. So for anyone who is interested, I have an amazing, amazing online program coming up. I think there's a promo on here somewhere, so I won't spend a bunch of time talking about it. But go to frontseatlove.com. frontseatlove.com. And that's going to turn into a beautiful landing page in April. But for the month of March, starting today, it's March 1st, Friday, March 1st, frontseatlove.com is just a very, very simple landing page for those that want to know more. So go give me your name and email, and my team and myself will keep you updated on the incredible program that is coming. And I can't wait to connect with you there. So I will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Share, review. Again, I love the reviews. I read them every single day. They are so fun for me. I think I'm well over 100 now. And again, I always read those on air. So thank you again, and I'll see you next week. All right, everybody, I have a confession to make. I have a new obsession, and that obsession is reading your ridiculously wonderful, loving, amazing reviews on iTunes. I love them. None of this even matters without all of you. So as a thank you, each week I will be reading one review on air and calling out your review with your name or your iTunes handle. So here's how it's going to go. You're going to go to Instagram and follow me at Front Seat Life. When you hear your name called out on the podcast, you are going to send me a DM with your address and say, "Oh my gosh, you just read my review." And I or my team will be sending you some Front Seat Life swag. We've got books, and we've got tank tops, and we've got journals, and we have these adorable pink swells. So we will be choosing from the goodie bag and sending it out as a thank you. So thank you in advance. And I am so deeply honored to have the opportunity to thank you back. This week's review is a little bit of a long one, but I absolutely love it. And it's from Mama1122, and she writes, "Very inspirational. I met Jessica a few years back at the Women in Business Expo in Tri-Cities. She was the keynote speaker, and boy, did I learn a lot. I have read her books and have followed her on social media ever since. Jessica talks about real topics that affect all of us in powerful ways. Her knowledge of Myers-Briggs is very extensive. I took my personality assessment on her website, and it was an eye-opening discovery. In her book, Live Your Life from the Front Seat, it goes in depth about each personality. Learning from Jessica has made me aware of my car, passengers, and now I can recognize when I'm not being the driver of my own car. I'm so happy that she now has a podcast and looking forward to each episode. Jessica is amazing, full of perspective, inspiration, knowledge, and is straightforward." Well, I mean, criminy. How can you read that and not tear up a little bit? Mama1122, I thank you with tears in my eyes for that unbelievable review. And as it is every week, please don't forget to go over to my Instagram page, Front Seat Life. Follow me there. Send me a DM that says, "Holy cow, you just read my review on your podcast." And we will lovingly send you some Front Seat Life swag. So again, these mean so much to me. So please keep them up. And it is an honor and delight to be able to read them back and give you a shout out as a thank you and send you some swag. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options. And the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.